girl Bamsig and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be referring to you as Bamsis fans. That's because Get Up was just focused on the Get Up curriculum and I'm going through some rebranding, so I'm still trying to figure out what my next project is going to be and how I'm going to call you guys. And so if you've been watching my videos, thank you very much for being faithful, and if this is your first time watching my video, you're here to have a blast. So I mentioned Get Up earlier, but if you don't know what Get Up is a online curriculum made up of 10 videos I created, and it's focused on creating awareness in the Cameroonian society. It can be used by both men and women, and apart from creating awareness, it also sheds light on how you can be able to coexist within a society that is made up of gender stereotypes and emerge successfully. And it also sheds light on some skills you can be able to acquire in order to be successful in whatever endeavors you decide to start. So today we're going to be focusing on trauma and relationships. I've been making so much videos about women empowerment and stuff, and now I'm going to be diving into mental health and also diving into creating videos for both men and women and talking about empowerment for all and like for all generations, just empowering the men and women of the world. And so as we dive into the topic today, which is trauma, there's a statement I always hear my peers and just people in general make, and it usually ranges from wanting to be like someone they think is ideal to wanting not to be like someone who they think is less of a role model or not ideal. And so since today we're talking about trauma, we're going to be focusing on the not so ideal part. And so some of the statements I hear my peers and I even sometimes make are statements like, I do not want to end up like that man because he beats up his wife and he makes the kids cry, and then the house is not peaceful, it's traumatic, he doesn't pay for his children's school fees, like a lot is happening. Or someone says, I don't like to be like my mom because she's a drug addict, she didn't take care of me, I don't know, like I didn't have a mom to basically teach me the basic principles of life, and so I want to be a good parent to my kids, I want to take care of my kids and make them successful. So these are some of the statements I hear people make. They think that by making that statement they are healed. By making that statement they will not become like the person they do not want to become. But I'm here to tell you that that is not the case. Making that statement is just your first step in the healing process, because when you make that statement, you're now in awareness that, wow, I do not want to be like this thing, and so that shouldn't be the end. That should just be like, wow, this is a problem, I do not want to fall in this category, and now what are the steps? You should be asking yourself this question: what are the steps I need to make or I need to take in order not to end up like this person I do not want to end up like? And so today I'm here to shed more light on the steps you can take in order not to end up like the person you do not want to end up like. So talking about trauma is something that most people of the world face. Like most mental disorders, one of the causes is usually childhood trauma, and that's because most people experience trauma when they are children, and also the brain develops, like your view of the world, like how you see the world develops by the time you are 6 years old, and so that influences like your lifetime, like influences how you behave when you become an adult and mid-aged person, and like it just influences so much in your life. So it's very important for you to be aware of that fact. So now you're at the stage of asking yourself, what are the steps I need to take in order to be different? The first step is that, yes, you notice that there was a problem and you no longer want to be like this person or that person. And now the next step for you would be to noticing the patterns you exhibit that make you more of the person you do not want to be. And so, for example, you might not want to be like your aunt because she always shouted at her kids when she was angry. Like when she came back from work and her boss made her angry, she would come and she would shout at the kids, and then that would just make the whole house sad and moody, and you were like, wow, I don't want to do this to my kids, I don't want to shout at them when I'm angry because of work. Like I want my house to be peaceful and everybody to be happy. So the first step for you to know is to be able to notice when you're exhibiting behaviors that make you more like your aunt. So if you find yourself shouting at maybe your nephew or your little brother because your teacher gave you a poor grade, you're like, wow, by shouting at this kid, I'm literally doing what I've seen my own auntie do. And you also be aware of the fact that let's say if you're 20 at this time, you should be aware of the fact that your brain was fully developed by the time you were 6. And so you have observed in your culture that when people are angry because of other things, they vent on the kids because the kids are helpless. And so you should be, if you're able to make these connections, you're able to understand why you're behaving in this particular way, and then you're able to intentionally say, now when I'm angry because of something else, or even if it's because of the kids, I'm going to walk away and be able to calm myself down, and then I'll be able to come back and talk to the kids reasonably and tell them why what they did is wrong and why they shouldn't do it again. And so that's how you're able to change. You're able to consciously be aware of the symptoms, or be aware of the fact that you're perpetrating behaviors of the kind of person you do not want to become. Apart from that, you can also go to a therapist and then talk to a therapist, since they are trained on trauma, they're trained on the symptoms, because you might be experiencing signs of trauma you don't even know. And trauma exhibits itself in so many ways. Like it's weird. Like you might not even remember why you behave in a particular way. Let me give you an example. So let's say a personal example, it's uncomfortable to say, that's why I'm like shaking on my chair, but yeah, a personal example would be, let's say when I was a kid, when we went on vacation, the friends I had the previous academic year would, since we didn't have phones, we wouldn't keep in touch. And then by the time we came back in the next academic year, my friends would have made other friends, they would have come to school with new friends, and then they'll be hanging out with those friends and not me. And then I feel like I'm heartbroken, I'm betrayed. Like, why are you hanging out with those other people? I thought I was your friend. I was looking forward to come back and we hang out together, but now you have new friends, so I feel hurt. And then later on now, when I'm in like now, when my friends go on vacation and they're calling me to check up on me, I'm like, wow, why are they calling me? This is weird. Like, friends don't call me during the vacation. Like, everybody lives their lives, forget about each other, and then they come to school and then they pretend like they're trying to be friends with you, but they're not actually trying to be friends with you. And so it's like, that is an irrational behavior. That's just because of the trauma experience when I was a kid. And if I'm not able to make these connections, I'll not be able to understand why I'm behaving this way, and maybe the possible effects my childhood is having on me. So if I'm able to make these connections, then I'm able to see, wow, what are the conscious steps I can make to be able to change. Because now I'm pushing my friends away just because when I was a kid, my friends didn't call me because I didn't have a phone. And there's something I should let you know. So I am no scientist, and I'm just trying to make this easy for everyone. And also, like, I've read about trauma and I've learned a couple of things, and so that's why I'm making this video to share. And so now I'll be talking about like the cortex, like the smart part of the brain, and the not so smart part of the brain. So let's say, for example, when you burn your hand on a pot, like when a hot thing touches your hand, your reflex, touch a hot pot, yeah, your reflex is to like drop the lid and then like put your hand in water to like stop the pain. And so that's like your immediate action. Like when you face like a threat, you either, is it run, flight, flight or freeze, I think. And so it's like a reflex action. So for example, when my friend called me during the summer, I'm like, wow, this is weird, why are you calling me? And then my immediate action is to sabotage and be like, wow, I don't want to be your friend again. Like, you end the call, or maybe you don't even pick the call because you're like, they're just pretending. And so that's how I'm able to typically respond and then sabotage the friendship. And then in the moment, I might not know that is why I'm doing it, but if I look back and try to understand my behavior, I might be able to create these patterns, and then I might be able to see the source, and then that would help me change. Another example would be someone in a romantic relationship. You might have grown up in an abusive household where your dad always beat up your mom, and that's what you're used to. And so when you get into a healthy relationship and your partner doesn't beat you up, you're like, wow, this is weird, this is not supposed to be happening. I'm supposed to be beaten, and that's how things are going. Like, you are supposed to beat me, and that is how a relationship is supposed to work. But that's not how things work. But since you're used to it, that's all you know. And so that's how you interpret love, that's how you interpret relationships, that's how you interpret partnerships. And so since your partner doesn't beat you up, you would try to make them beat you up, because as someone who has gone through trauma, your brain is used to and comfortable with what you know, the hurt you know, and it's uncomfortable, so uncomfortable with the good things you do not know. So that's basically how the mind of a traumatized person works. And then, so you now prompt your partner to beat you up. Maybe you take a plank out of nowhere and hit their head so they can pick it up and hit your head, so and you're like, yes, this is how things go. Yes, this is how relationships work, because that's all you know. And I would always say, when it comes to trauma, when it comes to like changing our perspectives and deciding that I want to be different people, sometimes we just like, it hardly ever happens just because we had an epiphany out of nowhere. Because to have the epiphany, we have to be able to, maybe we watched a video and we saw, wow, this is possible, men can actually love their wives. Or you travel to another state, or you lived in another family house and you saw, wow, the mom doesn't actually beat her kids up, she talks to the kids nicely and educates them on why they shouldn't do so and so activity. And so by observing other cultures and by exposing yourself to other things, that's how, and being open-minded about each experience you have, that's how you're able to change and be malleable enough to be able to develop into the kind of person you want to be in the long run. And so as I was talking about, well, I keep dodging and giving asides, but let me come back on, let me get on track again. So as I was talking about reflex action, so when you're traumatized and then when you're triggered, like something, let's say my trigger was the phone call from a friend during the summer. So when I'm triggered, my reflex action is to not answer the call. But the smart part of my brain, which is the cortex, isn't activated when I face my trigger. So isn't activated when the phone is ringing. So the smart part of my brain doesn't realize that. The smart part of my brain knows that the friend didn't come in because maybe they're busy, they have a summer job. But my reflex action is not to pick the call because I'm sabotaging the friendship, because that's my trauma acting up. And so the only way I'll be able to activate the cortex, the smart part of my brain, will be when maybe I've calmed down, then I'm no longer looking at my phone, then I'm like, but why did I not pick up that call? Like, why? And then I'm able to think and like make connections, and I'm like, wow, so this is what is influencing my behavior. So when you feel like you're being triggered, or something is happening around you that triggers your trauma or triggers you to behave in a particular way that is out of the norm, and you're conscious of the fact that you're aware of trauma, like you're aware that trauma exists, then you're able to make the connection that, wow, if I'm behaving weird, maybe it's because of something I experienced in the past. And then by connecting, then you're able to like change and take the next steps you need to take in order to become a better person. So I know I was like going round and round and round, but I hope this video was very comprehensive, and I hope you're able to gain a thing or two. But a call to action: if you're someone that thinks maybe you're going through trauma, but you don't have money to be able to go for therapy or go for treatment, the first thing you can do, if you're able to read, you can go online and Google books on trauma and find some of the books and read it and see how to navigate the kind of situation you might be going through. Or you can, what else, read articles online on trauma and see how they could influence you to become a better person. And one of the books I read on trauma is titled What Happened to You by Oprah Winfrey and Bruce somebody. I've forgotten the last name, but yeah, he's a neuroscientist and he wrote the book titled What Happened to You. I totally recommend the book. The book helps you rip off the band-aid, feel the pain, understand your trauma, and then oil it, put ointment around it, and then tape it back slowly and help your wound heal. So basically that is trauma. And before you leave, I want you to know that as a traumatized person, you are more comfortable with the chaos you know than the peace you do not know. So allow yourself to explore the peace you do not know and live a fulfilled life. Thank you. Adios.